Why, good evening, you beautiful souls. I hope you're having a great day thus far. We're continuing this whole self realization series in that mountain of trust, that mountain of faith. Now, if you notice, I use these interchangeably because trust and faith are one and the same thing. Now, that's very different from belief. And it's best in this kind of spiritual path and this direct looking towards self realization that you see beliefs as assumptions. Beliefs are things that we kind of hope for, we aspire. But faith is a trust established through the knowing in which we've experienced. And that's the most important part in this process of self realization because as you awaken from this level of the mind, you come to realize that you're not your thoughts. And as that journey coming back home to the heart awakens and unfolds, you have that dissolution of self. It is that ultimate oneness experience where you come to realize that everything is of the same source, that everything in life stands upon that same ground of being, and that, in fact, this is a matrix of love and light. We can see light as manifested love, if you want to look at it in the scientific perspective. But the most important thing here to really understand is trust in the process and trusting in life and having that faith that you are eternal. That's kind of what the awakening of the heart opens you up to experience. That your temporary existence in this flesh vehicle and body suit is but a temporary state. And the most important thing here is to recognize that within the ground of your beingness, you have all the answers you need. So the point of this, I guess you would say, this path of the self-realization is leading you into that awakening of the gut, which leaves you with that mountain of just faith because it solidifies all of the experiences that you've been going through in this process of unfoldment, the unknown, the uncertainty, and it's what allows you to overcome the inevitable fear of God moments that tend to arise with this development. So, most importantly, I want you to give yourself the love to just bring it back down to that simple state of being, bringing it back to that window of awareness in which you are, letting go of all the things you've been taught, letting go of all the things you've been told, and just coming back to that knowing of the heart, that knowing of the real, the pure. So get your last few wiggles out. And we'll start here with first 3 taps of the singing bowl. Take a nice deep breath in. And when you exhale, transform that release into a powerful and mighty Om by lowering the jaw for that A note to resonate like a sigh of relief. And as you chant and close the mouth, the U and the M will form naturally. Most importantly here, I lovingly invite you into that space of the heart, that throne of the soul, allowing your window of awareness to simply be letting go of all the happenings of the day, of the past, of the future, and allowing yourself to give that full love and reverence to this moment, the ever unfolding now. Begin by taking an exhale here, releasing your body of breath. Allow the dust to settle of the internal phenomena. The mind, the emotions, the sensations, simply allow them to be, pay them no attention. Give your full focus to your own witnessing, your own sense of self. That silent observer, that instantaneous knower, that sense of self. Remain in that sense and state of pure witnessing, not allowing the temporary distractions to take your gaze away, but fixing your heart even further and deeply rooted in that love. that knowing of self, that silent observation within you and around you. Listening to this voice and seeing the internal and external happenings all in the same tone and level. Give yourself this opportunity to let go of your own assumptions and expectations of yourself so you can freely experience that in which this divine film is trying to play before your very eyes and witnessing itself. When you hear this final tap of the singing bowl, shift your attention again to that sound of the bell as it rings. And as that sound comes and fades into the silence, so too, shift your affection towards that quiet, that calm. Most importantly, allow yourself to lay back within this cinema of the mind and simply observe this divine film unfold. One of the most challenging aspects of this human experience is, more often than not, we do not enjoy the film in which we are witnessing and living. There is that sense of judgment, there is that sense of expectation, these grand assumptions we apply towards the life we experience that take us away from the many opportunities and lessons. Now, one can't say that everything is predetermined and that your life in this entire existence is already shaped for you are the one writing the story. But it's important to recognize what that you is. In this process of unfoldment, we escape and liberate ourselves from the mind, that lesser version of ourselves, that temporary nature. And that is what is ultimately the one who judges and assumes and expects. For the you in which I speak to and the you in which you know is present always is that center point of your own beingness, that radiating light emanating from the heart, that gateway and portal to the divine. Trust, know, and explore. So you can come to realize that everything in this experience has been happening for you to awaken to this deepest truth. And until it arises, the patterns will only increase in severity and intensity. Like a hand over a flame, life will turn up the heat until our beingness itself retracts the hand from the flame. Now, these lessons, these happenings only arise when we're ready, and that is the purpose of this meditation, is to come to understand your eternal nature and to trust in life because you are one and the same with it. This body is more Mother Earth's than it is yours, and your own beingness is that of the Creator. You have nothing to fear, and you have never had anything to fear. Ultimately, you have to look within your own sense of self and come to recognize here that everything that you have experienced has brought you to this current point in which you are sitting. There is nothing to be ashamed of. There is nothing to regret, for you are the divine in body. You are perfect. You make no mistakes. Everything in this existence and experience has been destined for you to awaken to that fullness of what you are. To liberate yourself from the mind is to let go of the temporary thought forms as your identity. To unfold on this deepest level of the heart is that reminder showing you that you've never been alone, that you are life itself. And so is everything and everyone around you. And this cosmic family is one and the same. That is the purpose of this awakening of the gut, is to ultimately come home to that trust and knowing that everything will be okay. And in fact, everything has always been okay. But how do we judge the film that our divine life has been? Those random coincidences, those 1 in a million opportunities and chances, the paths crossing narrowly, the people who come and go. Your life is a divine film and you are the main character. And everyone else, every divine being, is a god and goddess in their own film. And it matters not how the story unfolds. The fact is very simple. You are the witness of your own tale. In and of itself, you must come to recognize here that your story also lies within your hands. You have the divine gift of free will, as you are currently incarnated in a human body, and that in and of itself is a gracious gift. You are no longer susceptible to the basic animal instincts being ruled and governed by the lesser natures. You have this opportunity to discern. You have the courage to resist, but only if you choose. That is the final test of this mountain of faith, is that ultimate fear of God moment when the true test will arise within your experience. You will be faced with that feeling of death. The body itself will shake and tremble, and that is truly what it is known as throughout all ages, throughout all cultures and places in time. It matters not. That fear of God moment arises within each of us because, again, you are the divine. The consciousness that flows through your window of awareness is that of the creators. You are simply borrowing the magic. But that is the final test for you to really come home. Do you trust in that in which you've experienced? Do you trust in the words of your teacher, of the one who points the way? Ultimately, only you know. And only you will come to experience. And these points in time, these opportunities, are not ones that we can force. We must be graced with. It only arises when you've reached the end of this road. But that is something that you must not be discouraged by if you're not currently experiencing it. You can come to be ready for it when the moment arises by falling in love with every aspect of life that happens to you, around you, for you, in truth. Because everything in this divine cinema is intended for our liberation, for our growth, for our healing. So worry not, have no fear, for there has never been anything to ever fear. But in this sense, this battle, that ultimate point of tension, we know as fear and doubt. These are but signs for the body to overcome, for they are that red flag, that neon sign, that blaring siren that is telling you, the eternal soul, that this is the direction you must go. That is why the body, the lesser natures, the ego, it matters not what you call it. That is why the vessel has this display of fear. Because all it knows is the temporary. The mind cannot even comprehend the eternal vastness of what we are in truth. Which is why it stays in the realm of assumption and belief. But here you must rise above to that ultimate experiential knowing, that concept, beyond all concepts, first-hand experience. When you listen to your intuition, you silence the thoughts. When you live in the namaste, you dissolve all barriers of otherness. And when you trust that everything in this human experience is arising for you, you let go of all apprehensions and fear. For that is the beauty of this dance, the blessing and gift that is this life. That everything here is arising for you to ultimately wake up to this eternal truth. And there is nothing greater, and there is no ultimate task in this experience other than to wake up to who we really are and to what this life really is. Which is why there are many distractions, roundabouts along this way, this inner looking, this journey. But again, come to have no fear. Dissolve it through that knowing of your own truth and strength. For you are not the mind, that all is one, that your eternal nature is that in which you are far more than this temporary experience. So trust in life, trust in the universe, trust in your own knowing of self, and come home. Come home to the recognition that everything in this experience is but a playground for you to explore. But one must have courage, one must have that deep rootedness in faith. That no matter what happens to the body, you'll live on forever. That no matter what happens in this temporary experience, your divine nature is unchanging, for it is always perfect. And that is the beauty of this journey, this inner looking, this direct path, questioning, who am I? What am I? What is life? Because as you peel back each layer, it brings you closer and closer to that doorway of knowing that everything has always been in your favor. Even when societal standards and the temporary lesser natures feel and experience it otherwise. But that is the deep well of trust that is formed and established through this unfoldment. Because there are no such things as mistakes, for everything brought you to where you are right now. You wouldn't be you if it was any different. Ultimately, here we have to let go of the expectations and assumptions that things could have changed because they simply didn't happen. One mustn't dwell and remain and ruminate in those areas of the imagination. The coulda, the woulda, the shouldas, those are things that matter not. For your story in the past is already written. Such assumptions and projections is like trying to write over the story in pencil or trying to write in the margins of a book. It does not change the tale that was already written. Instead, we must carry on and assimilate those knowings to gain the wisdom through applied action so we can write our story how we see fit in accordance to the heart. That is also one major aspect of this faith, the trust and the knowing in your own self that you have the power to choose, that you have the power to turn away from temptation, that you have the power to overcome the obstacles presented to you, and ultimately that you have the choice to look within and to remain firmly rooted in that truth and knowing of your heart. For when you come to experience it, you cannot forget. When you come to see and recognize, you cannot unsee. And that is the ultimate point, the carrying out of this process of unfoldment. For the chaos that ensues for those who take steps backwards in this process are simply steps for them to remember and to remember and to solidify this knowing until they can successfully overcome this last and final obstacle set forth by life, before we can fully, uninhibited play in this divine playground effortlessly from that space of our knowing, that pureness, that effortlessness. And it arises again as this face-to-face moment and experience of death. So what is it that truly fears such a word, such an event? For it is one of the most natural, if not the most natural aspects about this life, for as above, so below. With creation comes destruction, with birth comes death, but life is eternal, and this is the point of the inner looking, is to come to fully recognize your position in this divine play as that eternal witness, that divine soul. Allow yourself to take a deep breath here, filling yourself up with as much air, this vital energy of chi and prana, and this ocean of ether you swim in. And when you feel like the body is filled with air, again, take in a few more deep breaths and simply hold them. Reflecting on your life, looking back at how every moment has crafted you, has molded you, has shaped you into the divine being you are now to tread this path. Pay no attention to the bodily exhale. Simply keep your heart focused and affixed to come into this comforting, this knowing that everything will be okay. That no matter what you are challenged with, you will be okay. You will survive. Your sense of self will live on. For the experience in which we have in this divine realm of life is but a fraction of our true existence. We fall in love with this play because just as we fall in love with any show, we enjoy it. But we all know that this experience is temporary. So what happens when you accept your death before you have to die? Only an answer that the heart can provide. For the mind goes blank. For it can never enter past and beyond. Rest assured that you will overcome any and all questionings in this realm of mortality, for you are the eternal soul. You are the divine embodied. You only experience death, but you never die. No one or nothing ever does in truth. For all is of the Creator. That is where your power lies. That is where your sense of self originates from. Your ground of being is the same ground of being all life stands upon. Trust in that, not the lesser vibrations and energies of thought forms and emotions and physical sensations, but the divine truth to that which is. When you hear the final tap of the singing bowl, take a long and deep inhale. Allow that exhale to transform itself into the powerful and mighty Om as that beacon, as that proclamation that you are ready for such a challenge, that you are ready for this awakening of the gut. Namaste. I bow to the divine within you. Thank you so much for tapping in. Don't forget to smash that like. Yeah, this is the final test for those on this path of self-realization. Namaste to you. Of course, we make no mistakes. You're the divine. You're a goddess. How can a goddess make a mistake? Same thing with the gods. And that is the purpose of everything going on in this divine play of life that we have to come to accept. And in this final aspect of, the awakening of the gut, the spiritual warrior is what we all are. And that's the moment that ultimately arises when you continue this unfoldment. Personally, it took me 3 attempts, to be honest with you, to overcome that fear, to remember. And it takes what it takes. The most important thing in all aspects of life is to remember we can't force anything. We can only take it one step at a time, one moment at a time. That's the only truth we know. It's the only thing we ever live. One frame of now, one snapshot of this eternal unfoldment of this one existence we're living. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. The only thing we live is the now. And that's ultimately how we come back home to this realization, is to just trust in life again, to trust in ourselves, to remember that it may be uncomfortable, it may be filled with tension, but it's all divine. You're divine. Everything that arises within this human experience is always intended to point us back home to these truths. And in this awakening of the gut, it ultimately can only arise because when you let go of the attachment and identification to thoughts and you drop back into the heart, you have that dissolution of self, the temporary identity drops away. You're kind of left looking and searching for what's real, what's this, what's that. And the awakening in the gut is for you to tap back into your power. Because what's it like dancing your dance when you know that there's nothing to fear? What's it like living your life to its fullest when you experience that you are life itself? Again, this process of self-realization is just one question, refined more and more. Who am I? What am I? And that's the only question that really matters. And until we come to this point, we can say the real fun doesn't even get started yet. It's like cooking in a kitchen without tasting the ingredients. Until you have that taste that you are the divine, that you are life itself, that everything is that one eternal flow, can you really express yourself fully? Can you really harness your power? Only you can answer that. But with that, may the fruit of knowledge offer a seed, and in that seed may your love, will, and intuition give life and nourishment, for a tree shall grow, and in its shade may you find peace, and offer peace to all whom ask. Namaste. I'm bow to the divine within you. Thank you so much for tapping in. Don't forget to do all the good YouTube stuff, and I'll catch you guys on Sunday, because that's when we really pick up the post awakening, which most people don't really talk about. We always get all caught up in enlightenment, liberation, ascension, and all this jazz, but what happens once you figure it out? What's the next steps? So the rest of May, we're going to figure that out together. We're going to dance that dance, and we're going to have some fun looking deep. So take care. I love you so much. Peace.